bringing our 1320 Kings insider and host of the Locked On Kings podcast. It's our man, James Ham. James, what the hell?
I I don't know what to say. This is this sure does feel like the last couple of trade deadlines. It's like you get all built up and you're waiting for this moment, and then everything seems to go sideways all the time. And yeah, they did pull off a trade. It just happened last weekend. Whether they're going to pull off another one between now and tomorrow, it's tough to tell.
So, James, I've been on a bit of a rant since I got in the studio today.
Is it a Morant rant?
That's he's been hanging out with Kyle Madsen. That's what he's been doing. That's what he's been doing. He's been hanging out with Kyle Madsen. But it was centered around the fact that I'm frustrated because I feel as a Kings fan, as somebody that follows this team and wants them to just kind of build towards something. My time has been wasted, and Kings fans' times have been wasted for the last 9 months. They've done nothing. They haven't got rid of any got rid of any of the bad money contracts. They haven't gained any assets. They haven't got a situation where the coach they have, it's like a Will Hardy situation where, we got a new coach, but he's here for the long haul. We're going to build with this guy. We don't know what they're doing with Doug Christie. Some of us have an idea, but we don't know what they're doing with Doug Christie. They haven't taken a swing on any of these disgruntled stars, whether it's Trae Young, whether it's, I'm using this word loosely here, but Jonathan Kuminga, whether it's Ja Morant. There's still about, a day left, so maybe that happens. But they have done nothing. Absolutely nothing for the better part of 9 months. Am I being too harsh?
Yeah, I mean, it's early. I mean, we still have another 24 hours, right? Maybe not quite 24, maybe 21 hours. Is that where we're at? 21 and a half. Yeah. So look, I think that I want to wait and see what happens until after the deadline comes and goes. I also you got to give Scott Perry a little bit of leeway going into the offseason. I get it. There are a lot of people that definitely want to see trades. They want to see these things. And, I think, when we do these shows, it feels like therapy. And, like Kenny, you started out, I feel, these are things that you learn in therapy sessions, how to express yourself with what's happening. At the end of the day, look, they still have time to make a deal. I think the window, again, we've heard, the window with the Domantas Sabonis situation is closed. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. I'm not sure that that's the case. The Kings, I do know this, as of yesterday, they had not spoken to the Memphis Grizzlies for 2 or 3 days. They've never put in an offer for Ja Morant at all. And on top of that, they haven't been pursuing Ja Morant. There's a lot of conjecture, a lot of people freaking out over something that, realistically may not materialize at all. It may not have ever even been a true option. But the Domas stuff is. And so to see something kind of potentially slip through your fingers there, the Kings have been demanding a first-round pick from what I've heard. The team that they're dealing with and the Raptors are trying to offer a couple of seconds. And so here's how I would look at it if I were a Kings fan. We keep hearing it's in order for, Toronto to make this deal, they have to move off of Pirtle's contract. Well, that's not the case. For a salary cap, it would be not wise to have $70, $80 million in two centers. But that's their problem. That's not the Sacramento Kings problem. And so I don't care if they think that they've got to give up 2 first-round picks to the Memphis Grizzlies to move off of Pirtle's contract. First of all, you signed that contract. Secondly, we already told you we don't want that contract. So if you want to make a trade with the Sacramento Kings, then make a trade with the Sacramento Kings. It does not have to include the Pirtle situation, which is your own situation. You can deal with that this summer, but fair trade value, if we're giving you a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA player who's led the NBA in rebounding the last 3 years, and you're a bad rebounding team, and that's one of the reasons why you want him, like, you're going to have to give up something. And, RJ Barrett's not enough. That's what they're telling him. Like, we're giving up the best player in the deal. So why is it that we need to, like, take less back because you might have to give more to get rid of a bad contract that you created for yourself? So I think it's an interesting way that this whole thing is played out. And again, we still have time. I don't know what's going to happen between now and noon tomorrow.
And real quick, to be fair, I say I feel, out of respect to everybody else, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I know I'm right. I'm 100%. They ain't done nothing. Even in the trade that they did make, they didn't even get a draft pick back for helping out Cleveland clear the books. They actually had to give a draft pick away.
Utah did.
Everybody did.
Utah took Lonzo Ball and got 2 draft picks for it. 2 second-round draft picks for it. That's $10 million.
And the frustration that I have is not that I necessarily want to see trades back. I just want to see you move towards a direction. If the direction is let's offload these bad contracts. All right, I want to see Sabonis gone. I want to see Levine gone. I want to see you make a deal to get DeRozan gone. If you can't do that and you're like, look, we're just trying to get assets. When you trade Schroeder or Keon Ellis or whatever, please get me a draft pick back. Give me something that I can use later, not give one away. If we want to speed up the process here and we're going to get a disgruntled star, all right, we'll take a chance on Trae Young. Take a chance on John Morant. They haven't done any of it. Nothing.
They still have 21 hours. I mean, like this discussion that we're having right now, it's a discussion for Friday, realistically. And I get your frustration, and I get that you want to make them do something today and right now. But I also feel like they still have time. And again, the Kings don't have a bunch of players that teams around the league want. And if you are going to give up your assets, this is one of the things that, like, I think Scott Perry is coming to the realization of. Number one, Sacramento's toxic. Like, I think that that's become like a true issue that they need to figure out. How do you make Sacramento not toxic? And again, you can have as much cap space as you want in 2027. If your franchise is toxic, it doesn't matter. No one's going to want to sign here. They don't already want to sign here, but you need to create something that would actually, entice players to come to Sacramento. Number two, you're watching the Memphis Grizzlies, who have assets that are better and easier to trade than the Kings, who all of a sudden have 13 first-round picks in the next 7 years. The Kings are so far behind any of that. Well, I guess as of right now, the Kings technically have 9 first-round picks, although a couple of them are encumbered. But the Kings are super far behind in the arms race to collect picks to wait out these other franchises that, the San Antonios, Oklahoma Cities, the Houston Rockets. So when they start to maybe decline, even though they're packed with young players, you're going to be on the rise. Well, there are teams out there that are just so far ahead of you. And so I kind of agree with the idea of not resetting the same completely, looking at 25, 24, 26, 27-year-old players, trying to build a new core around that age group, and then going into this year's draft and drafting a top 5 pick and hoping that you can develop that player. And the next year, do the same thing. So I think there is a lot of this with the Kings. They're torn. Like, they don't know which way to go. But what they do know is that when they do trade one of these players, in order for us to not have the same exact frustration that you're expressing right now, Kenny, you have to get a first-round pick for Domas. If you're giving up a player who's very good and that you led you to the playoffs for the first time in 16 years, you better get something out of it. And so I agree with the tactic of saying, hey, we've got to have a first-round pick. It's just tough because second-round picks, again, they grow on trees. Like, you might be able to go out and get 5 second-round picks for a player 2 years from now. You just don't know. But, they're assets for sure. But I believe that the Kings are doing the right thing when they're asking for the moon. And I don't even think they're asking for the moon. I think they're asking for something that's pretty reasonable in this trade.
Sorry, Dame. Sorry. Good. James, I'm going to use a James Ham-ism. What do you say when somebody says my house is worth $5 million, but they get offers that don't exceed 3? What is your house value at?
Okay, but when we're talking about a first round pick versus 2 second-round picks, you're saying my house is worth $5 million, and they're saying I think it's worth 4.7.
I've got 2 teams.
Your house is still worth 4.7 million.
I've got 2 teams, Washington and Toronto. They said, "No, we're not giving you a first-round pick for Domantas Sabonis." I'm not saying everybody, and those are the only 2 teams seem to be interested, but just for argument's sake, I'm not saying that's what everybody thinks. But now we've got 2 different teams that says he's not worth a first-round pick. Else he'd be on our team.
I get it. But at the end of the day, like, again, like, the value here isn't like they're trying to give you nothing. I think the one thing I would say is the Kings telling them, no, we're not taking Quickly, we're not taking Jakob Poeltl. That's a pretty strong negotiating stance as it is. Like, again, I would want draft capital in that trade for sure. But I also look at it and go, okay, I'm not sure how much draft capital it's worth. I see where the Kings are standing strong. And I also see that they just went through this on Saturday and they realized the reaction was so negative because they didn't get picks, that if they did it again and don't get picks again, that they're going to get called out for that as well. And, so RJ Barrett would roll into Sacramento and for the next year and a half while he's in the Kings uniform be just roasted as what little you got for Domantas Sabonis on the way out the door. So I don't think that there's a way to win this situation. Unless they find a way to move off of Zach LaVine or they find a way to move off DeMar DeRozan. But even that, I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about DeMar DeRozan's contract moving forward. It's just not that much money and you can move away from it. But it's not easy. This is a tough business. And, again, I at least want to give Scott Perry enough leeway here to see how he does. Like, give him a year on the job. I think we're all so fed up with the inactivity of Monty and Wes that you're like, all right, I do have to at least give them until Friday because that's actually when the trade deadline is, not today.
He's got 3 months.
They have till 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, they have until 12 o'clock tomorrow. But Friday is the day that like you guys are going to be back on after the trade deadline and sort of the dust settles and like, what does the roster look like then? And if it's the same as it is today, that's not great. It's not.
The marathon continues. 60 minutes of commercial-free sports talk with our man, James Ham, 1320 Kings insider and host of the Locked On Kings podcast. You just suggested that perhaps the front office doesn't know what direction to go here at this particular trade deadline. That to me feels like a problem. Like, if you don't know what direction you're trying to go, if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, I used the example of the Washington Wizards earlier. Obviously, they've been tied to this Domantas Sabonis thing very loosely and very briefly, but they have a direction. They picked it. They were definitive in their stance. The Kings, it doesn't. I think we keep waffling between, well, we might have to wait till 2027. Oh, it looks like there's going to be some moves here, to like, oh, no, we're just going to have to wait for 2027. Nothing's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the reality of when you have bad contracts on your books. Like, you might not be able to speed up this process. And that's why Scott Perry has repeatedly told everybody, hey, 2027, 2027. Now, if he can speed up that process, it's like, okay, great. Like, maybe it happens quicker. But even speeding up the process, you're just, again, saving on the back end that 2027, year where, as of right now, what would you have? Like Domantas Sabonis, maybe Malik Monk and Keegan Murray on the books that are going to be making any money at all. So, I mean, the NBA salary cap is going to be over $200 million, and you might have 80 or 90 tied up in long-term deals at that point. Maybe you've got 120 million tied up because you've paid rookie scale extensions and all that stuff. But realistically, like that date is actually closer than we think. And Fact is, it might be better for this franchise to just let Zach LaVine expire. It might be better for this franchise just to figure out a way to move off of the $10 million of DeMar DeRozan next year, or just say, hey, go ahead and go. We'll bite the cost on and give you the 10 million, and we're not going to pay you the 25. So there is a way in which this speeds up a little bit, but yeah, it's not an easy place to be in, inheriting a roster like this. And not just a roster like this that's expensive and old, but it's expensive, old, broken, and miscast. It has no flow at all to it. And it's a tough place to be in for a guy like Scott Perry, who's coming in the door and saying, okay, I think I might be able to move some of these guys. And then the realization that maybe you can't move any of them.
So, James, I'm going to ask you a question that is impossible for you to answer, because it should be a question asked for Scott Perry. But give me in order, the top 3 priorities right now if you're the GM. Because whatever number 1 is, you had an opportunity to achieve that, it feels like, and you decided not to for whatever reason. But what is it? Is number 1 getting as many assets as you can? Is number 1 getting off these bad contracts at all costs? What is the top 3 priorities in order for this franchise?
Yeah, I mean, the top priority in this particular situation today is trying to move off of whatever contracts you can. Then the second order would be it would be great again if you had Jaren Jackson Jr. to go trade for 3 first-round picks. You don't have him, and teams aren't paying that for the players that you have. So the objective has to be, number 1 is to clear the books. Number 2, it's to find assets. And then after that, you got to find talent. I mean, that's the key. And, again, I kind of feel bad for DeAndre Hunter. All of a sudden, it's like he's getting swept up into this. Hey, you guys did nothing. It's like, well, what about DeAndre Hunter over there? It's like, you did nothing. You did nothing. You suck.
Well, it's not even the DeAndre Hunter thing. That's the part that's unfair to him. It was all of this conversation about what Keon Ellis is worth. This conversation that Keon is going to net you a first-round pick, and the fact that Keon Ellis nets you nothing. Lonzo Ball got 2 second-round picks. This got you nothing.
You had to give up a pick.
Yeah, you had to give up 2. Right, and the Kings had to give up that pick to Chicago. That's where people's frustration with DeAndre Hunter lies. I don't think it's DeAndre Hunter. It's the Keon Ellis part of this. Is you told us. Y'all were wrong.
Yeah,
and someone was lying.
I think that they're learning a pretty tough lesson here too. You got to keep this thing tighter to the vest. I don't know,
See, that's my problem. You've been in the league too goddamn long to not know that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
You're trying to speak stuff into existence like this is some sort of seminar.
I think it's funny though. I in all honesty, because I've heard from executives around the league who are like, yeah, Keon's worth this. There are teams that are lining up to give him a mid-level exception this summer, or they were before the season started. So that's kind of where the weirdness is. How did you not get that? And, I think a little bit of this is a Giannis situation, because one of the situations that was out there was, well, I can tell you 2 that I know of. Number 1, Minnesota. Minnesota was offering 2 second-round picks for Keon. They also had discussions about a Malik Monk and Keon Ellis trade to Minnesota. Well, that dissolved because that team now wants to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The other trade that I heard, very specific, was, again, either Zach LaVine or the combination of Keon Ellis and Malik Monk to the Milwaukee Bucks to go help out Giannis. Well, now he's not going to be there potentially, and they're stuck like deer in headlights, pun intended, I guess. But, that's another situation that just dissolved. So when you have some of these options that are out there, and they go away quickly when a player, it's decided that it's going to be traded, I think the one good thing is that the Kings got out in front of this and at least made a deal on Saturday before the market got completely wonky. But at this point, too, I mean, we're seeing so many deals go through that are just around the peripheral. They aren't the big. Well, I mean, there are some headliners going, but it's not like Giannis has been moved. And I think he is holding up part of the league because, whether it's the Miami Heat or, name that franchise, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the New York Knicks, like those teams aren't the Golden State Warriors. They're not jumping in the trade market right now. They're trying to figure out if Giannis is going to come to their team.
I think I answered my own question that I asked James for Scott Perry a little while ago about what is the most important thing to them. And obviously they would have to answer that, and they know the answer to that. But you showed me, not you, James, but Scott Perry, you showed me what's priority number one. It's assets. It's not getting off the contracts. Because if all reports are accurate, you could have got off a contract, but the assets weren't what you wanted. So you didn't get off the contract. If the number one priority
What
is
about Dennis and Keon?
Yeah, because that's where you're missing. Dennis was a contract he wanted to get off of.
okay.
It might not be the biggest contract.
I understand. Yeah, that shouldn't have been your first priority. If in my opinion, if getting off contracts was your priority, then it should not have been, hey, we got to get off of this. It should have been Sabonis and Levine, then probably DeRozan, then probably Monk, then Schroeder. And not saying I want Monk or any of those guys, but if that was your priority, Dennis was like fourth or fifth on that list. So I can't give you a bunch of credit for that, especially when one of your top two contracts that you're trying to get off of, if that's your number one priority, you had an opportunity to, but the assets weren't right, so you didn't. That tells me the assets is what's number one.
I mean, it's got to be a combination of everything, though. And I think
for sure.
I would tell you that I think each of these players have different values, and you're hoping that you can at least get one first-round pick out of Domantas Sabonis. You're not getting a first-round pick out of DeMar DeRozan. You're not getting anything and might have to give up draft capital to get rid of Zach LaVine. You know that the league has told you no already for the last 8 months on Malik Monk. So you're not getting any assets there. So I'm not, again, going to fault Scott Perry for trying to get an asset for what is realistically his best player. Like, we can him and haw about, Domantas Sabonis and what he means and all that stuff, and whether you'd build around him or whether you like him or not as a player. That doesn't change the fact that he's the best player on the Kings roster. It's not even remotely close. So you have to try to get something for the assets that you're moving. And unfortunately, it looks like Toronto, but then again, like Toronto might come back to the table. Like, for as much as I heard, oh, it's over. Like, I also heard, while it's over, it's not over. It's probably going to happen. Like, so who knows? Like that, and that's not from someone in Sacramento. It's from someone outside of Sacramento. But there's still possibility that these players are moved. And that's why I say, like, we have to be a little bit patient here.
And to be fair and to be honest about it, I don't care what direction Scott Perry goes. I will follow him wherever he goes. I believe in him, but I need to know that you're moving towards that direction. If assets is what's number one and trying to get draft picks and get what Brooklyn has or get what Memphis has is number one, cool. That's what it is. And I will understand that, hey, you just ain't going to move Sabonis or Levine or DeRozan for anything less than what you think is acceptable. But there's got to be something that's your clear number one. And I'm trying to find that out. If it's assets, which is what it's looking like to me, fine, let's do that. Get the best compensation package you can get for any deal or walk away. But if it's moving off the contracts, you had an opportunity and you walked away from it. That can't be number one if you had an opportunity and you walked away from it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I would also say, like, there's nothing you can do about the value of Zach LaVine or the value of DeMar DeRozan or the value of Malik Monk. There's nothing you can do about that. Like, if you're the Kings, like, he didn't sign them to these contracts. They're there. Again, Scott Perry didn't trade for any of these players. Like, you kind of got to deal with the hand you're dealt. And at this point, there are teams out there who have assets that other teams are willing to give up first-round picks for. and the Kings have assets that they are not willing to give up first round picks for. And, again, at the end of the day, would I take 2 seconds for Domas? I might if I'm getting some other asset in there, but I'm not if it's just throwing him away for nothing. Like, I mean, again, if they don't want to give up first round pick, well, all right, then give up Colin Murray Boyles, the number 9 pick in this last year's draft. If you're not going to give up a first round pick, then I at least want a player who has the potential to give me something down the road. And, again, not to be disrespectful to Grady Dick, but I'm not making a move like he's not going to be the second piece in a deal for Domantas Sabonis when the first piece is RJ Barrett. So it's tough.
You think there's extra pressure on Scott Perry because of the past deals that have fallen through, the Monty McNair situations, funny enough, involving the Toronto Raptors with both OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam? Does that add a little extra emphasis to what's happening with Scott Perry and the Kings right now?
I don't think it adds any emphasis for Scott. I think it does for the fan base and for people who are talking about the team. I think it does add extra stress and angst to the situation, but same time, I don't think Scott Perry's blood pressure ever rises. He's just kind of chill, and he's going to go about his business and try to do what's best for the Sacramento Kings. And again, if that means telling the Toronto Raptors that we're not going to take on one of your horrific contracts and that our player is still worth X amount of dollars, then, again, this was always going to come down to the Raptors having to give up additional things to move off of some of a either like a 3-for-1 or a 4-for-1 swap. They were still going to have to move one of those pieces to a third team and pay that team a second round pick or something to make that happen, because the Kings weren't going to bite the bullet on something that, again, it's their situation. They're the ones who are coming after Domas. It hasn't been the other way around. This is not like the Kings are going out there and pitching, and let's be honest, like today, like while the Kings may have lost one of the potential trade people to deal with in the Washington Wizards, like the Wizards also acquired Anthony Davis, who might have been the other option for Toronto. Like Toronto's position in the market got weaker as well. And so now it's like, hey, again, like we talk about this all the time. Everyone has different motivations when you're going into trade season or you're going into like these conversations. And clearly the motivation for the Toronto Raptors is to get an all-star level center to put in the center of their offense. That's going to cost you. And, again, Scott Perry has every right to ask for the moon. And I don't even think he's asking for the moon. Now, if he's asking for 3 first-round picks, now we're talking about something different. But what's the difference? Again, like Jaren Jackson Jr., you can rate a little bit higher than Domantas Sabonis, but not that much higher. Like, and they're out there getting 3 first-round picks for him. And so I look at Scott and I'm going to go, okay, I get it. I'm holding out. I'm holding out for a first-round pick. And again, we still have, hours to go here. Toronto can come right back to the table and say, all right, we searched, we couldn't find something better.
So let's just go through the scenario that the Kings don't do anything, make any trades, come noon tomorrow. Do we see Domantas Sabonis play for the Kings anymore? Do we see DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine play for the Kings anymore? Why would they not do what Washington is doing with Trae Young? What we think Memphis will do with Ja Morant if they can't move him? Because the focus completely shifts to having the best odds you can for this draft. Do you think they still play those guys?
I think it's going to be really tough once we get past the trade deadline to play those guys major minutes. Like, I mean, I don't know if they're going to dive into the buyout market. Again, I believe the reporting right now that the Kings are not just going to buy out DeMar DeRozan. I also would have that conversation with DeMar once we get past the trade deadline. Like if DeMar DeRozan will walk away from some of the $10 million he's owed next year, then things change. I might be willing to walk away from DeMar DeRozan. That's not a big deal. I don't think there's anything you can do with the Zach LaVine thing, but Zach is probably a player you can say, hey, we're not going to play you. If you want to like not be here, that's probably fine too. We're just going to have to see what they do. Like, again, this isn't supposed to be about losing every single game. And you did just make a trade for DeAndre Hunter for a reason. That reason should not be to win games this season, though. And if that was like part of the design here, that's a flawed design. I think that's more to give your team a look at Keegan Murray with a style of player that you hope to add down the road. Whether it is DeAndre Hunter or DeAndre Hunter is just a place filler, a player archetype for the Kings.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where the Domantas Sabonis play. Well, I do see a situation where Domantas Sabonis plays 40 minutes and Russell Westbrook plays 40 minutes and all those guys take big minute, play big minutes and take a lot of shots. Is Doug Christie's role in all of this?
Yeah.
Doug might have to just go out there and win basketball games. I think we're at the point now, with all due respect, I don't think it matters anymore. Like, I don't think what Doug does from here on out. The one thing that could have gotten really interesting, Hammer, if this roster was wiped out and Doug was able to just have a brand of basketball with this young group of guys that come in. I'm not saying they win a bunch of games, but you watch them and it's like, oh, I kind of see something there. Like, oh, I get what they're doing. I get what Doug's doing. I get what these young guys are doing. Or even, the middling, the Kumingas or the DeAndre Hunters or any sort of acquisition from Toronto or whatever. Like, oh, I get that. Good for Doug. They got something going here. That's the scenario I could see. If it's just everybody is back, I don't see that scenario for Doug. And I don't know, like, if all of a sudden Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, all of a sudden those guys are playing 20 minutes a night or playing every other game, I could be wrong. I feel like we're going to know pretty definitively that edict is not coming from Doug Christie. That's coming from somebody else, which means Doug Christie is already no longer the coach of this basketball team.
Well, I would say that, like, if that was the case, like at the beginning of the season, then yeah, this is just like riding out the streak here. But I think when we get to the second half of the season and you're looking at developing young players and like, look, I just to be honest with you, there's nothing Doug Christie wants to do more than develop these young players. The young players are actually giving him life at this point. The Dylan Cardwells, the Max Reynaud's, the Nick Cliffords, they're actually giving him a reason to show up and be excited about his job. And that's tough, but you need more of them. And I think that might be, as much as anything, one of the bigger crimes that we're going to see on the way out the door here. Like, if the Kings can't do anything between now and tomorrow, you're stuck with an old, like, bad roster, and you don't have enough players to actually field a team of young players to finish out this season. So those guys that we're talking about, they're going to have to play. And, I want to see, again, I think, I talked about this last week. Like, I have a ton of respect for the way that I think that DeMar DeRozan has handled himself in this situation. I think he's going out there and giving the team something to base their night around and to save them in a lot of ways. It's the same way I thought Zach Randolph did in the 2017 season when they went fully young. Like, it's really tough to be super young and have a team going in a 6-0 run, and all of a sudden that's a 14-0 run or 22-0 run. You need somebody like a DeMar DeRozan, like a Zebo, who said, all right, give me the ball. I'll go get to the free throw line or I'll get you a bucket. And we'll calm down everything and we'll reset ourselves. So, like, super excited to see what this team looks like. But what it can't look like is even what we've seen in the last couple of games where the young players sit there and acquiesce to DeMar DeRozan and Zach Randolph and say, okay, we're going to do our thing, but then you guys go ahead and do yours and we're going to watch. That can't be how this goes. You have to strip it down even further. And whether that's like buying guys out or just telling guys they're not going to play, you do need to do it because, again, as much as, we sit here and argue about, Keegan Murray's development, the only way to truly see who Keegan Murray is going to be is to make him a primary the entire, last 28 games of the season or whatever it is. And I don't think you can do that with this current roster.
All right. And this is no shade to any of those guys. Like, I don't have no problem with them, but Yeah, I continue to say we're here now. Like, you're here at the worst record in the league. Don't blow it. Like, you got about what, 30 games, less than 30 games left. You've done all this work. Don't go in here and have Keegan come back and Sabonis come back and Lamar be this pro that he is and win 13 of your final 30. Like, don't do that.
It's funny because they're like the accidental tourist at this point. Like, they didn't know that they were going to be at 12 wins and the worst team in basketball. They had no idea, and they've kind of like stumbled into this. It's a very, very weird situation because, again, like, we all projected this team. I think I was at like 38 wins, and you guys were higher than that. Like, that's where we thought this team would be, and that's where they thought they would be. They did not think that this is what would happen. But again, I'll just say, like, clearing out Dennis Schroeder doesn't really help unless Nick Clifford gets to play point guard the entire time. And Russell Westbrook is taking a major step back and coming off the bench and playing a limited role. Like, that's the only way this works moving forward.
Why do you want to see Nick Clifford play point guard?
Well,
I don't
because
understand that.
If that's what they think he can be, then you got to go all in. Like, I don't know whether he can be that or not. But if you think
why not let him be who he was when you drafted him? That's what I don't understand about this organization. Why are we drafting players for like an idea of what we want them to be? The young man did not play point guard in college.
Yeah.
At least not regularly. Why are we doing that?
Well, I would say because one of the things they're trying to do with doing that is they're trying to force him to be more involved and to have the ball in his hands and to be the playmaker. And they want him to get comfortable in that position, whether he's going to be a full-fledged point guard or he's going to be a 0.3 or he's going to play the shooting guard. You still want that secondary creator. And so I feel like they're pushing him to, like, all right, man, I've seen the offensive thing where it's like half the time he takes off and he goes. And then the other times he's just kind of lackadaisical and like trying to be a good teammate and move the ball. It's like, no. We need to put more pressure on you to be the guy. And so I don't know that I would have put him at the point guard spot. I would have much rather had a legitimate NBA point guard that he can play off of. But I also understand that, you've got Zach LaVine and you've got Malik Monk, who all play minutes at that shooting guard spot.
Oh man! All right. Like I said, this is my thought process for the rest of the year. You've done the work. You've done the hard work. You've worked so hard to get to this point. Like they said in He Got Game, the coach at Tech U said, "Don't blow it. Don't blow it." Once again, you got these games against the.
And by work, you're saying stink.
Yes.
You have stunk so bad to get to this point.
Yes. You have put in the work to be the worst team record-wise in basketball and maybe just in general in basketball. Don't blow it. I don't think Sabonis, DeRozan, LaVine, none of these guys should be playing for the rest of the year. They should be on that Trae Young model.
If you search Wizards Kings right now, the first two articles you'll find is some form of, was it a mistake for the Washington Wizards to beat the Sacramento Kings? That's where we are right now, is these teams at the bottom of the standings are fighting it out to not beat the other teams at the bottom of the standings. Despite the fact that having the worst record in the NBA assures you of nothing. Despite the fact that since this new lottery system has been put in place, no team with the worst record in basketball has ever had the number one overall pick.
Be the first.
It secures you the fifth pick at worst. That's what it does do.
So it secures you at the very worst, the top 5 pick.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, this team isn't that lucky either. Like, I would like to say that they're going to do something here and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it happened. I don't believe it will happen. Do I think they might get the second or third pick? Okay, that's possible. But the number one overall pick in a draft where there's a potential superstar at the top, or the second pick that might be a superstar as well. But, like with the Kings' luck, they'll get the number one overall pick and Darren Peterson will have cramps for the next 8 years and not be in the league.
Cramps? Damn.
Well, that's what he keeps missing games. He's missed 14 games with cramps.
8 years of cramps is crazy.
I don't know. He didn't miss 14 with cramps. He had a hamstring injury.
Okay.
He had a hamstring, and then his ankle got hurt the last time. But he has missed games. The game that he went crazy on against Baylor, that he tied the game with the free throws, he couldn't finish because he had cramps.
Well, the game against DeBonsa, he sat the huge portion of the second half because he was
called point proved.
Oh, yeah.
I already proved my point.
Would you rather be the Kings or the Dallas Mavericks?
Oh, the Mavs for sure. You have Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
But think about but think about where Dallas is at. They traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, and then barely a year later traded Anthony Davis.
I get. I
guess you were rewarded with the number. I guess you were rewarded with the number 1 overall pick in a potentially generational draft. So,
I get what you're saying.
Whoever.
That doesn't bother me as much if I'm a Mavs fan because, like, the damage is already done. Like, you could have traded Anthony Davis for a box of peanuts. The damage was trading Luka.
Yeah,
and that's to me that's all that matters.
But it's almost an immediate. Hey, we screwed up. Now it's a new front office. You know, Nico's out, but it's still and maybe it's best in that sense. Maybe it's best to just wipe the slate clean and move on, especially since you were able to land Cooper Flag. You don't have to hold on to the Anthony Davis thing anymore. You could just acknowledge what everyone already knows. Okay. We effed up.
He was the Dallas version of Zach LaVine, but on like the steroids that Paul George was using.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate.
And the ones that
never
Ray
going to
Lewis
work
were
here.
using. Yeah, all of those steroids.
It's never going to be good for you here. You should just leave. But like you said, soften the blow because they got Cooper Flag. We didn't get Cooper Flag.
Who would you rather have, Nico Harrison or Vivek Ranadive? Never mind.
I know the answer to that because one of those can be fired and the other one can't.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Do you like the direction of Washington, Hammer? Do you? I see the direction. I've noted several times this year. I know far too much about the Washington Wizards after reading that article from The Athletic. But are you in on the direction? Do you see what they're doing? Do you like it? Can you get behind that?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I can see what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, is there a contender window there? Are you just becoming a playoff team in a soft Eastern Conference? And the answer you probably are. But again, you get done with this deal and they're still so far away. You know, and I think everyone, for some reason, they're getting off the hook for this. Boy, would they look different if they had Denny playing the small forward spot right now? Yeah, because that guy's pretty good. So, but again, I think it plays into the same conversation. Just so we wrap this part of it up, like you gave Denny the ball and you let Denny become a star in Portland, right? And first of all, I don't even think that happens if Scoot Henderson is healthy. He would have got in the way of potentially Denny becoming that. But also look at what they're doing with what Jason Kidd is doing with Cooper Flag in Dallas. They're giving him the ball, and I don't think that Jason Kidd deep down believes he's going to be a point guard, but I do think that Jason Kidd knows that, number one, he doesn't have a point guard, and number two, the best way to force him to be aggressive and to be the guy is to make him a de facto point guard right now. Down the road, you might be able to go get yourself a point guard to put alongside him, but for right now, push him to be something bigger, which again brings us back to the point with Nick Clifford. Like, you got to push these guys sometimes and say, hey, look, we need more out of you.
I heard Will Dawkins defend the Denny trade the other day. Guy was like, salute. He's
what do you say?
No, it was the right move. Like, we had to make that move.
You had to make that.
Like, okay. I don't think you did, but like
23.
Okay. Like, why? Like, sir, hi. Care to elaborate as to why you had to do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe it's because they knew that they weren't going to be able to develop him and that he wouldn't be that player for them. And the other thing is, Portland threw a lot at them. They gave him a ton for Denny. So,
and maybe that's why he felt like they had to make the trade.
yeah.
Okay.
Still looks bad now, no matter what. No matter
it doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's just like the Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine. I didn't like it when it happened, but I don't like it even worse now.
Looks a lot worse today.
I don't know what part of the game is we had to make the wrong move.
Yeah. Well, again, remember
we had to draft Marvin Bagley.
Yeah. Everyone's got different motivations at every point, and again,
think about it. Is Marvin Bagley a Dallas Maverick now?
Dallas Maverick.
Wow.
He's a Dallas
what a wild twist to the story.
That is a crazy stat. It's not even a stat, but just that everybody from that lottery's been traded.
Mm-hmm.
That's
everyone from that draft, right?
It's the whole draft.
Wow. Everyone from the first round. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That is crazy. And there's great players in there, obviously.
DeAndre been on multiple teams. Luka been on Luka been traded. Marvin been on half the league. Traded. Jaren traded. Jaren was the one, like, SGA.
Mo Bamba.
Jaren, I really thought Mo Bamba. I really thought Jaren was the guy that, like, Memphis was gonna go. Like, they were in on this. Like, we like the way this guy plays. We're gonna build around him. And they said, nope.
I did too, and I disagreed with him. And I agreed with this decision.
Yeah, I did too, and good for them. Because, like James said to start all of this, that's one of those 3 teams with 13 first-round picks over the course of the next 7 years.
Yeah, it's really tough to compete even with that grouping because you're so far behind that group right now. It's just really tough. Yeah, it's so crazy to look at that draft. Every single player in the first round has been traded. Shout out to our friend Jason Ross who put that tweet out there. That
went 1320s, Jason.
Well, no, shout out to D'Lo who mentioned that when Trae Young was signed by Washington, that the only player who hadn't been traded is Jaren Jackson. Excuse the hell out of me for not tweeting it. I will tweet every goddamn thought I have instead of saying it on my 4-hour radio show.
Speaking of Twitter,
Jason Ross, love you, Jay.
This is this DeAndre Hunter video going viral is the strangest thing because I've had plenty of videos go viral over the course of my career, but to have 589,000 views on an introductory press scrum with DeAndre Hunter.
What's funny about that is it's not even a clip of DeAndre Hunter. It's just the whole 3-minute video that James put up.
Like that, like there were tons of cameras, tons of people there. I don't get it. But 500.
He didn't even say anything. Like we played it, and it was like, well, this is boring.
He's nice. Boy, isn't he nice? That's what you thought. Yeah, he's fine.
Virginia, that alumni base or fan base, they go crazy. When they going crazy for Kyle Guy? Every time something's going on
God,
yeah, Virginia don't play.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Cavalier Nation,
the Jimmer era where like everything you put out there just went crazy, and then like forget those guys. The second they dumped Jimmer, I lost 400 Twitter followers in the span of like a day. When I had 4,000, I lost 10% of my overall Twitter followers when Jimmer got waived. Like, wow, that's crazy.
Unfollowing is uncrazy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like I've done it, but there are people that used to play for the Niners that all right, they're on my timeline. Like I'm not gonna go unfollow them, but say, oh, Jimmer's gone. Where's that James Hammond? I'm gonna unfollow him now.
That's why I was like, hey, like forget you guys. Like I'm never gonna mention him again. And I like Jimmer. Jimmer's a nice guy.
Stop saying his name because now this we know on YouTube this will get caught up in because of your boxer. This will get caught up in the algorithm, and the Jimmer people will be back.
There they are.
Where is Jimmer right now? Is he still in overseas?
He scored 97 yesterday in
he's
Hong Kong.
Beast in every other league but the NBA.
Yeah.
Like he goes crazy in all these leagues.
That's crazy. Yeah. He definitely like he was not an NBA player. You could see it almost instantly. It was like, oh no. Like Yeah, tough for him. A very, very good guy. And he was drafted to the perfectly wrong situation. And on top of that, they drafted him with the number 10 pick and Isaiah Thomas with the 60th pick, who proved to be a much better player, like right off the jump, and just put him behind the 8 ball. Tough.
Hammer, what do you think happens over the course of the next 20 and a half hours or so?
I'd like to tell you they get something done, but I don't know. You know, again, I've heard that the Sabonis thing isn't 100% dead, but again, that wasn't from Sacramento. You know, I told you guys what I've heard very specifically from Sacramento about Ja Morant, how they have not been pursuing Ja, and how this is like they haven't even talked to the Grizzlies for a few days. And even when I think they were talking to the Grizzlies, it was about other things. The Grizzlies, just so people know, are a team that has long sought, like during this season, tried to get Domantas Sabonis multiple times. But I think that's all gone now. Again, sometimes like weird little doors close that you don't know that are going to close. And sometimes you don't take a deal that's sitting there and you regret it a couple of days later because it just goes away because of something weird. And, you know, again, I think if the Kings really, really had their wherewithal, they would not have gotten the Kuminga sweepstakes. It became just the biggest debacle of all time and embarrassment that they got hung up in. And, you know, what you don't want to be is, for some reason, the team that nobody else wants the players. Nobody else wants Ja Morant. So the Kings might take him. Nobody else wants Jonathan Kuminga. But the Kings might take him. And then on top of that, to have also your own group of players that nobody else wants, it's a really, really tough place to be in.
Yeah, that's another name. The Jonathan Kuminga thing is done, it seems. Jonathan Kuminga is going to eat, and he'll be comfortable for the rest of his life, but he is going to regret that contract he signed.
Yeah.
He's good, because I don't think he's ever going to get to play basketball because of it. I don't think he's ever truly going to get to play basketball because of that contract. Because the Warriors can do this again.
They're probably going to do this again
next year.
He's a restricted free agent again.
He had it's a team option.
Oh, next year.
Yeah,
I thought you meant with the next contract.
No, next
contract
year
he'll be under.
He's a team. They have but now you have that. Now you're going on like 3 years of like, I don't know what this kid is. I don't even know if he's a kid anymore.
But now you've been in the league 7 years, and nobody knows if you're any good.
Barely played basketball.
Yeah, it's tough.
Gerald
Wallace wasn't that long. I think Gerald Wallace was like his second or third year player. Yeah, when the Kings let him go in the expansion draft to the Bobcats. Yeah, that was tough.
The All-Star team with the Nets, I believe, right? Or was it the Bobcats?
No, he made it with Bobcats.
And then he went. He went to the Nets at one point. Did pretty good too. So,
yeah.
All right, Hammer. Well, we got our Twitter alerts on, man. We appreciate you. We're locked in. No pun intended.
Well, the crazy thing is, I now have to go to a game. They actually play tonight.
Oh, they play tonight. That's right. Well, they play Memphis tonight. So,
that's right.
Ja, what do you?
Ja's like hiding out, like, please, dear Lord, don't trade for me.
Ja's just in his room at the Sawyer, not moving.
I'll say this too. I said this about the situation a couple of years ago with Ben Simmons. The best thing for Ja Morant is probably to go out and, number one, go somewhere else so he's not in Memphis anymore, but also not to go to Miami, not to go somewhere where he can get in more trouble. Go to Sacramento, reset your career, get yourself on the right path, clear up whatever issues you have. Because if Ja Morant thinks that the Miami Heat are going to let him do some of this stuff that he does, that's not going to fly. They are going to treat him just like the San Antonio Spurs treated Steven Jackson. They're going to say, nope, you are not Heat culture, and you can GTFO. And that's what they will do with him. And so I think, you're sometimes advising somebody, hey, go to a little bit of obscurity. Go show that you can rise up a franchise that's in a mess and rebuild your value. And if I'm the Kings, I'm looking at it the same way. Like, who's to say that you can't hide the weird things that he does behind the scenes for a year, build up his value and go trade him for 2 or 3 first-round picks in a couple of years or a year. Like, I wouldn't. I would actually take the gamble there, but I don't know if the Kings are going to.
Well, go ask him all these questions, James. Get out to the arena. We appreciate you, my friend. That's our 1320 Kings insider and host of the Locked On Kings podcast. He's headed off to the arena right now, and we are coming back with more.